Okay, let's do this one last time. So Dark is a show that probably still has you scratching your head over its ending. Though it seemed to be the closing of a loop that gave the surviving characters a happy ending, I actually have a new theory that could paint the final scene out in a much darker light. You see what I did there? Now throughout this video we'll be going over why everything might just be part of an even bigger loop and the evidence to support it. Obviously, there's gonna be heavy spoilers here, so if you haven't had a chance to check out the third season of the show, then I highly recommend that you turn off now. With all that out the way, as always, I'm your host Definition, this is the Heavy Spoilers Show. Now let's get into our alternate ending theory for Dark. Okay, so Dark centered around Adam and Eva, two time-traveling characters from separate worlds that were at war with one another. At one point, Adam smashed her box in, like you should smash that like button, and Eva, or rather Martha, became pregnant with his child. Adam believed that destroying the pair would end the time loop that all of the characters in the show had been trapped in, whereas due to her motherly instinct, Eva just wanted to protect her baby. This led to a finale in which Adam killed Martha and their son. However, much to his surprise, he felt fine after it, Mr. Stark, and didn't suddenly disappear. Now this is where Claudia arrived and explained that there was actually a third world that the characters were not aware of. In this origin world, the inventor H.G. Tannhaus had created a time machine in order to save his family from dying. However, it backfired and split the universe in two, creating branch realities in which other possibilities could play out. Claudia had spent her time in the loops retracing all of the family trees of the characters and had surmised that because she could not fully trace back who the father of her daughter was, that they were actually in an offshoot reality rather than the origin one. Thus, she sent Adam and his younger self Jonas back in time with Martha to save Tannhaus's family, and this would then remove the need to create a time machine that would create their offshoot worlds in the first place. Very confusing. Now, they accomplished this, and those not created by the time loop were seen in the final scene sitting around a dinner table, celebrating their happy lives in what the show deemed as paradise. It looked like a crappy Friday night to me, but who am I to judge? Now, when I first saw this, I was over the moon for the characters. They'd finally got their happy ending, and even Wooler, he got his eye back. Now, sure, some of the characters created by the family trees in the time loop were gone, but on the whole, it was pretty positive. I was happy to let this go, but then YouTube user Vizialod dropped a comment on my ending explained that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. They pretty much ruined the show for me, so thanks a lot. They stated that we've just seen one more loop being created, and after rewatching the ending with this in mind, I actually think that it holds a lot of weight. So in the final scene, we see the friends sitting around the table, celebrating, then all of a sudden the lights go out. Hannah experiences deja vu, looks over to a yellow raincoat similar to the one that the Travelers wore, says that she felt people in the loops passing away, and states that she will name her child Jonas. The entire ending should be classified as a paradox, however, it could actually indicate that the loop is just continuing. Now let's break this whole scene down just to show how this could actually be the case. So firstly, the power cuts out. Now if this theory is correct, then this power outage is actually caused by a time machine being operated. Tannhaus has had many regrets in his life, and he was clearly fascinated with time travel even before his son's death. We know this because of the argument that the pair have with one another, and his son pretty much throws his obsession in his face. This fight becomes the main catalyst that causes him to run off into the night and get into a fatal car crash. So I doubt that his son's return would have really scratched the itch that he had, especially since he didn't really know about the alternate worlds in the first place. Who knows, his son's statement about guardian angels saving his life could have actually made him realise that time travel was possible, and thus he pushed on even further to create the machine. Thus, the power outage that we saw could be caused by the machine being turned on, and this tearing of realities is what caused Hannah to have her deja vu. Now how we can gravitate towards this theory is because she looks at the coat and receives the memories and emotions of those in the other world, because maybe that world is being brought into existence at that very moment. The reason she looks at the coat and recalls the name Jonas is because the memories of another time loop have come flooding back to her for a very brief moment. Whatever happens, she will clearly go on to call her child Jonas, who will likely be the same version that we saw in the show, and everything could start in a new loop that eventually leads back to this moment once more. Now, the other thing to support this notion is the fact that the worlds themselves are classed as the triquetra. So when we look at a map of the realities from the top, even with the third world as part of everything, it still must loop round and interact with the other two in order to be part of the one. Dark has always moved in motions of 3, and whether it's the 3 timelines, 3 versions of the characters, 3 worlds, 3 seasons and so on, everything in these loops of 3 are based upon cause and effect. We can clearly see that all of the worlds themselves are connected, thus this origin world now is still heavily based upon the other two, as it's required to exist in order to save Tannhaus's son in the first place, and yet lots of timey-wimey wibbly-wobbly stuff. So when you look at this scene in a new context with the aforementioned information, it does indeed seem like there was a lot more going on than we initially thought, and this brief moment of the characters going back into the dark carries a lot of subtext with it that ties into the overall show's title and meaning. The darkness they find themselves in that once more triggers Hannah's deja vu could indeed be a new cycle that is started up once more, and this is why the name Jonas is mentioned at the end, purely to tease his return and thus a new collection of loops. Dark has shown us time and time again that nothing can really be changed, and the only time that it actually diverted from this notion was probably in the last half hour of the final episode in the final season. If this theory is true, then it means that Claudia herself was actually part of the loop, and she's just been travelling around to put everything back in motion. Claudia is therefore really no different to Adam and Eva, both of which believe that they are doing things the way that it should be done in order to carry them out the way that they're always supposed to happen. Claudia describes this as quantum entanglement, and not to get too Jada Pinkett Smith on everyone, but they could have just entered more entanglements that cause things to revert back to the status quo. Even the origin world itself exists in a state of flux, with there being alternate realities tied to it. This is because there are actually 2 versions of the origin world. There is the version of the world in which Tannhaus's son dies, and the version in which he doesn't. These 2 worlds side by side, similar to the 2 worlds in the alternate reality, show that there are loops going on all of the time, even if we're not aware of them. Though the moves of Martha and Jonas seemingly set things straight, they actually create a paradox in which they need to exist in order to save Tannhaus's son, which can only be accomplished with the other worlds and realities. So in conclusion, yeah, this ending, it might not be as happy as we first thought. Now, I have kind of wrestled back and forth on this, as it's a really dark way to end the show, and it does kind of ruin the fates of a lot of people, leading to a cycle of never-ending misery in which they get a couple of years of happiness in the origin world before having alternate versions experience different things. However, there is some good news to take from this, I guess, and there is just a little silver lining to it. Now, if this is true, then it means that the characters that we saw missing at the end, such as Charlotte, will actually be born at some point, and they will get to live instead of simply being wiped out of existence. In the opening of episode 7, Tannhaus even says that it is possible for alternate worlds to exist side by side, and this is shown in Schrodinger's cat, so we could actually have 2 alternate realities existing with the origin world unbeknownst to the people in it, until the time machine inevitably brings them all back together. Now, Dark is deliberately ambiguous for a number of reasons, and I absolutely love that we as viewers can revisit it and take different things from the ending. I'm still yet to see someone completely nail everything, and I think that there will always exist this open-ended nature to the show's finale and its overall meaning. I do think that this theory does have a lot of weight to it, and the more I think about it, the more it makes sense, and the more it makes sense, the more I ruin that nice little moment for myself. Now, obviously, we will never know for definite, but who knows, we could have just witnessed a completely new loop starting up once more without even being aware of it. Anyway, that's the entire theory. I'd of course love to hear if you agree with me or not, and it did take a couple of days to come around to thinking just how true it might actually be, so if you're unsure then, just let it marinate and come back and let me know. If you noticed anything else that supports it, then drop it below because I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you want to watch our breakdown of some of the unanswered questions left at the end of Dark, then make sure you check out our video at the end which goes over them in full detail. If you want to support the channel from as little as 99 cents a month, then please click the join button below. We massively appreciate it, and as a thank you, you get access to content early. If you want to come chat to us after the show, either follow us at Heavy Spoilers or click the Discord link in the description below. Anyway, that's the long outro out the way. Thank you for sticking with me till the end. I love you, take care, and whatever you do, don't bump into your future or past self. Much love.